Well, that's it. We're done. If the rumors are true, Godzilla vs. Kong marks the end of the MonsterVerse, started back in 2014 with Godzilla, and amounting to just 4 films in total, including Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters, sandwiched between these two starkly different films. And that's too bad if it's the case, but never say never. A hashtag campaign has already begun, no doubt emboldened by the success of the Snyder Cut. And the film has managed to break the record for highest grossing film of the last 12 months, which is faint praise, admittedly, but nonetheless shows the money men that they maybe shouldn't give up on this titanic franchise just yet. So, let's say it does succeed, and we get more films. If that happens, I'm of the opinion that Godzilla vs. Kong was a very necessary, albeit very stupid, entry in the franchise that mirrors what has come before and could signal a path toward kaiju perfection, or at least as close as we can get without, dudes in funny suits. Or CGI approximating dudes in funny suits. Look, I just need some jank in my kaiju, you dig? Looking back at the Godzilla franchise, it's shocking just how quickly it turned into outright camp. Of course, in 1954, we got the OGGZ Gojira, a horrifying black and white nightmare of atomic proportions that began the kaiju genre as we know it today, itself evolving from the success of American giant monster movies like, well, King Kong. It was wildly successful and resulted in a 1955 sequel, Godzilla Raids Again, which, long story short, featured a new but shockingly similar Godzilla, which did battle with the new, goofy, soon-to-be franchise cannon fodder and kind of best friend sidekick, Anguirus. This film was kinda boring, but it got the ball rolling for future matchups, although its box office numbers, while not bad, didn't reach the heights of its predecessor. Is this sounding familiar yet? It was also super rushed, and the negative reaction meant a hiatus for everyone's favorite 50-meter-tall murder machine. Then 7 years later, we got the first film in the franchise, shot in color, King Kong vs. Godzilla. Yeah, that's right. For those of you who slept through Godzilla 101 or didn't grow up watching these movies, it took even fewer movies for the Japanese to pit these two giant assholes against each other, and the results were interesting. Let's just say that if you thought Godzilla vs. Kong was dumber than a bag of hammers, the first official matchup wasn't much better. Luckily, it didn't completely tank. In fact, it killed it at the box office and ensured the series would go on to spawn what some might call an aggressive number of sequels. In a way, this does parallel what's happened with the GZEU, or whatever the fuck we're calling it. Just consider King of the Monsters, the Godzilla Raids Again of our time. A film that's perfectly fine, that did moderate but not terribly inspiring business. Now, despite my generally negative attitude toward King Kong vs. Godzilla, it did do extremely well, not only at the box office, but also with fans. People fucking love this thing. And even today, there are going to be people who dislike this video because I dared to sort of badmouth this beloved piece of monkey on lizard cinema. And hey, I get it, it's a lot. And I definitely enjoyed it quite a bit as a youngster. It's dumb. Unnecessary dumb, if you will. See, a giant monster movie by itself can be anything. Without the need for sequels upon sequels upon sequels, it can be as dark as it wants, it can be subversive, it can be cruel, and it can even be a biting satire of the government bungling of natural disasters. The possibilities are endless. However, mass audiences aren't going to come back for grim realism after grim realism after grim realism. And no, the Snyder Cut is not grim realism. That's another video for another day. They're going to want things to get wild, to escalate. I think one major problem with King of the Monsters is that it tries to have things both ways. It's grand and mythical and serious, dealing with destruction, while also featuring a hovercraft with a wisecracking Bradley Whitford and also a human-to-monster walkie-talkie, or whatever the hell was up with that orca thing. It's just fine once everything is said and done. It all just evens out into a film that certainly happened, and that was cool, I guess. The same can certainly be said to some degree of 2014's Godzilla, although I personally still think that's the height of the American series, almost neck and neck with Kong Skull Island, which I won't delve into here because it's kind of its own thing despite setting up a lot of its two successors. Although, real quick, it is the best looking and most downright fun of the series, right? Like, hell yeah.
Die, you motherfucker.
So good. Anyway, Godzilla 2014 was a stark contrast to where the franchise would wind up 7 years later. It's a pretty serious, reasonably intelligent film with minimal comic relief, realistic military weaponry, reliance on an even older piece of tech, and a general lack of big G goodness, which in my opinion works really well, making Godzilla a massive force of nature that comes and goes as he pleases, leaving destruction in his wake. He's seen from the ground, he's a blight on the world, disguised by darkness and smoke, with perhaps the best shot of the film being just his foot slamming down on the airport tarmac. Or that sick kiss of death, I guess, but that's cheating, because like... Anyway, once he's become the hero, he's seen in full daylight and in one of the film's more mind-numbingly stupid moments, declared a savior by the news, who are also kind enough to give us our sequel title in the process. It's a dark, polarizing film that will sadly never overcome the negative reaction of people who wanted to see Godzilla and Walter White cooking meth in the world's largest Winnebago. Fast forward through a fun and beautiful, albeit narratively stunted period piece, and an epic matchup that just couldn't get its head out of the clouds, and rain, and, I don't know, dust, just really anything to obscure the CGI in that movie. And we arrive at Godzilla vs. Kong, a title indicative of the shifting power dynamic of the two titans since their debuts, with King Kong getting the top billing in the original matchup since he was the more popular at the time. This movie is not bad, but also not great. Its plot and characters are easily the weakest of the series thus far. The jokes are, well, bad, and a lot of time is spent on borderline nothing just so we can get from point A to point B. It seems like the creative team listened to those in the audience whining about human characters, and rather than show more empathy for the humans to give them less two-dimensional conflicts, simply went the opposite direction, which is frustrating, considering the reliance on the horrors of big monster go boom boom in the 2014 film. It also takes a massive leap forward in both science fiction and fantasy, giving us dumb blue energy spewing heaves, basically inferior versions of what we got in Return of Godzilla, and the actual Hollow Earth, which would be cooler if it was actually utilized in the titular fight, or featured additional monsters that we actually care about, or, you know, didn't make everything a giant CGI mess. Rules are made and broken just as easily. Energy sources are sent through email or something, and it's all just generally too stupid to let go. I know. It's only a movie, and it's about two giant monsters fighting. Turn off your brain, yada, yada, yada. But come on. There's silly and there's insultingly dumb, and Godzilla vs. Kong is absolutely the latter. It's a narratively lazy film. But it is fun. It does deliver on the title. Adam Wingard's direction is aesthetically nice to look at, and his pacing is excellent. It flies by. The neon lighting is pleasing. The big fight is actually visible, which, while I personally liked the obscured visuals of Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters, it does solve a big criticism of the franchise up to this point. Now back to the East for a second. After King Kong vs. Godzilla revived the Showa era, Japan pushed out almost annual installments up until 1975's terror of Mechagodzilla. Between the match with King Kong and the final bout of this period in Godzilla's history, we got Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah, a giant crawfish, living pollution, Gigan, hashtag gay for Gigan, Jet Jaguar, Megalon, King Caesar, and Manila. 1968's Destroy All Monsters, the 9th film in the series. The 9th film. is widely considered one of the best kaiju films ever, and for me, 1971's Godzilla vs. Hedorah, the 11th film, is one of the most wild and enjoyable experiments in kaiju history. What started off with a classic, a stumble, and a wet monkey gone wild bag of dumb nuggets resulted in a massive series of successes that, if the series had been abandoned at its worst, a friendly reminder that Son of Godzilla came right before Destroy All Monsters, by the way, would have meant we would miss out on some of the best cinema dudes in rubber monster costumes could provide. It was a series of ups and downs, and later entries in later eras would see similar highs and lows, although for my money, the Heisei era is just about perfect. And the last proper live-action Toho Godzilla flick, Shin Godzilla, is for me the best Godzilla movie of all time, and one of my favorite films, period. This is all a long-winded way of saying that if the original series could be saved by a downright oppressively dumb film like King Kong vs. Godzilla, then this series can be saved by the film equivalent of failing an honorary doctorate degree. Godzilla vs. Kong, a film so stupid that our giant ape hero is ultimately given a leg up in the final battle by Chekhov's liquor, which... Jesus Christ. Whatever your opinion is of Godzilla vs. Kong, some love it, some hate it, some like me are in between, it being dumb is necessary. It's the evolution of the series. Sure, this step in the evolution has a leg sticking out of its forehead, but eventually we will find the happy place between this and this. And when we do, if we do, then I think we could find ourselves with another Destroy All Monsters, which means Godzilla's future with Warner Brothers could be looking very bright. That said, could we please get a goddamn sequel to Shin Godzilla for